Hi everybody, it's great to be here, and we talked yesterday about the power of the community and what's in here. And so first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to our supplier partners and our distributor partners for being with us and celebrating this community. Facilisgroup is really special to me, and I hope to you as well, in terms of not only providing technology, but supply chain relationships, but also the coming together and learning with each other every day. So I always take great pride and excitement every time we're together, and a real demonstration of that community coming together. Real privilege to have you with us today, Frank. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When I think of S&S as a story we know, we're going to hear a little bit more about the last 12 months. But a little like me, we kind of need to get ourselves out there as leaders of our organizations, be a bit more visible, and so it'd be great to hear your story as well, a little bit of how you got to run this amazing business.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having us here, and we're really excited to be participating in the event. You guys do a great job. Last night was really nice. I love the format. I think I've finally figured out how the elevators work, which is great.
Well done. It's like snakes and ladders out there.
Yeah. But yeah, so I grew up in the Midwest, went to school in Chicago, started my career in investment banking, and actually at the time, the two families that owned S&S were exploring potentially selling the business. And so worked with them for a couple years, got to know them. They didn't end up selling. I went to go work for a private equity firm for a couple years, but built really strong relationships with them and the leadership team at S&S. And so in 2009, they asked me to come back and join them and help execute what was our national expansion strategy. And so I joined in 2009 as I think my title was data analyst or something like that. But sat on a cube on the main floor, surrounded by customer service and salespeople, and sort of worked my way up. Ended up acquiring a company called Americana Sportswear in California in 2010. I was the only unmarried, no kid person on the leadership team, so I got nominated to move to LA, which was a great place to be in your mid-20s. I moved there, ended up spending 10 years or so there, and kind of transitioned from more data finance role to being COO and CFO, so sort of overseeing finance and ops, sort of everything but the commercial part of the business. And so, grew with the company for the last 16 years, became CEO about 3 years ago, and it's just been a super, super fun ride.
Sure. And so when you joined S&S, what's the multiple of sales that have happened from when you joined to where we are now?
So I think when I joined, we were like 150 or 175 million, and we should do close to 4 billion.
20x, something like that. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you sort of transitioned from sort of private equity, investment banking, and I know a lot of those guys. So not many of them, I wouldn't think, they've got great skills, very bright. Not many of them, though, could transition into a sort of leadership role in this industry. And so how did you find that, and what did you have to work hardest on in that transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you're coming from an environment where the expectations of work-life balance were, I guess you could call them unhealthy.
Right.
And so sort of adjusting to working for a real company and doing real work that wasn't just spreadsheets, took some adjustment in terms of expectations for people, how you communicate with different people, because, we have a few thousand employees at this point, and the levels of education and engagement vary widely as you move from department to department and role to role. And so, being able to connect with the entire organization was a skill that I had to develop quickly, early. Otherwise, you just aren't an effective leader. Sure. So it's been really fun kind of getting really deep in a business and understanding each function and, how things work and why. And it's not just coming up with a really good formula and slick graph and thinking that's going to happen. So that was a big transition early.
Yeah, I think it's so important. Leaders need followers, otherwise you're not one. So you have to sort of sat in an organization with thousands of employees. They need to know that person and see that they're willing to follow them.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about S&S is, we started it as a small business, and all of us did every job, and so when you look at the leadership team, everyone's pulled an order, everyone's entered an order, everyone's dealt with a credit situation, and so we've been able to really develop and hone our focus on the customer because we've all touched the customer from all the different parts of the business. And that's really fun and rewarding, and it allows you to, when you're managing these people, to really understand the challenges they're facing every day. And so, our job as leaders, as you know, is to eliminate obstacles for the success of our employees and our customers, and you have to really understand what those are to do it effectively.
Yeah, and so in this room, we've got leaders and business owners, and size matters, and kind of is, but equally some of the challenges are the same. So having a conversation earlier, though, I think I've been fortunate to lead a business for the last 15, 18 years, but I repeat myself, I go to bed every night thinking about it. I kind of wake up in the night thinking about it. That's the first thing I think when I wake up in the morning. But I have so I play golf very badly, and that's kind of where the time, the 4 hours I can kind of have, and where I don't think about work. So what goes on at home? What's sort of your version of that?
Yeah, so I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son, and we live in a mountain community in northern Nevada. So a lot of my free time, when I get it, is to try and spend time with my kids doing things outside. But as those of you that are parents know, as the kids get older, it's a lot of t-ball practice, and I went to a hula hoop performance on Friday that for 5-year-olds does not involve much hula hooping. But it was, I try to just, like, when I'm in town, spend as much time with them as I can. And, I love to mountain bike. I love to fish.
All right, so we'll kind of move on to sort of the industry in a second, but just one last thing. So just give us a real quick overview. Your last week, what's that involved? What have you been up to?
Last week. So I was actually in town last week, which was nice. But, it's everything from dealing with, how we can continue to push the business model and commercial strategies and drive growth for our customers to, I know everyone in this room deals with the persistent employee fire drill of the day, and things, meeting with vendors, trying to identify new categories, and strengthen existing vendor partnerships. Like, that's kind of the bulk of my focus, and then something completely out of left field, twice a day. Cool. Standard.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because we all live in those same, so even a business of your size going through some of the same things that we're all doing, it's just on a different scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the problems that we're dealing with every day are the same problems that we dealt with when we were 1/20th of the size. And I think that's what's been a big learning for us as we've grown, is like continuing to bring in good talent and invest in your team so that you can move on and do other things that are more value add or different, or challenge yourself and make work more fulfilling for yourself, but allow the day-to-day to continue to get executed the same excellence as you would yourself.
Yeah, it's just a building, good teams, good people around you. You just can't do it on your own, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably been the biggest learning for me in the last decade, was like, anytime I've hired someone and then I get them in, I mean, it's hard. You have to make time and interview and spec the job and find the right person and then convince them to come work for you. Like, every time I complete that cycle, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't do this 3 years ago. So that's one piece of advice I can give you guys, is if you think about the roles where you're like, maybe we need someone to do this or that, or we could do this much more if we did, had this additional resource. Like, make those moves early and often, because the gut instinct to do those tends to be right.
Okay, great. And so we had Tim Andrews from ASIE yesterday. We did some things, a lot about the size of the industry. So I think 26.6, that was the number in my head. And as distributors, and that's the world I lived in for a long time, and it was about, ultimately, it's about getting our margins right, managing our costs, but really to grow our business, it's growing those sales and those top lines. And how much do you think our industry now is about winning market share or growing the industry? Because obviously growing the industry is the best way of doing it, and winning market share as a distributor is probably easier than winning market share when you get to the size you are. So how do we together grow this market, that 26 billion, so it is 28, 30 billion? What can we be doing together to do that?
Yeah, so that's probably the thing I spend the most time thinking about, when I wake up in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning. But I mean, all of us can go out and fight every day for the same job and try and price it lower, or take cost out of our business. But what we're really focused on is partnering with our customers to identify white space and push this industry to grow. And so that's, new, in our case, there's some level of new geographies, but it really is about new categories. And so, there's all these kind of channels that are parallel to our core business, apparel business, that are antiquated, not efficient, and the end users are seeking the product in new and different ways. And the distribution footprint we have, the marketing front end, customer relationships that everyone in this room has, are really well positioned to go and extend into some of these other markets. And so, for us, like, we think of things like workwear, which we have a big initiative right now around medical scrubs, which I kind of lump in with workwear. The team space is increasingly merging with the kind of traditional promo space. If you think about it, it's a lot of colors, it's a lot of the kind of fabrics, and product is overlapping between off-field and home and work. So I think as we continue to invest in products and selling tools to help enable our customers to address those markets, there's massive opportunities to grow with the 26 to, I mean, just with the workwear alone, that's 32. You layer on something like non-government tactical, that's 38. The team business is probably another 8 to 10. So very quickly, if we focus on those spots, we can all double our business together.
And do you see doing that through this distributor network? So is this going into those slightly different channels and verticals, but through this same distribution network that could be done?
Yeah, I think there's a merging that's happening. Like if you just take team as an example, where team is doing a little bit of corporate and corporate's doing a little bit of team. And I think at my 16 years in this business, that the lines are continuing to blend together. And so there's no one as sophisticated, at scale, as sophisticated as this group of people. And so using the back end and engine that Facilis that can power these guys to go grow and sell into those channels is really unique. And I think those markets are ready for disruption.
Yeah, and I think so we want to grow that pie, that 26.6 billion, if we can make that bigger, and rather than just swapping kind of sales between the two. I think that's a challenge for all of us, because that's benefits all as well.
Yeah, and it's a lot more fun. I mean, going and selling the same person you sold last year for slightly less than you did to keep the job is not something anyone wants to do every day. So I think, pushing our salespeople and our customer salespeople to think differently or think about other solutions. It's not creating demand for something that didn't exist before. It's providing a solution to someone that doesn't know that you can provide it.
Yeah, that sounds great. So if we kind of go deep now into the last 12 months, and I think it must be almost a year ago that you announced the merger, the acquisition of alphabroder, and so amazing to do that. I think probably the biggest ever transaction that's happened in our industry. So many congratulations on doing that. And so if a year on, lots happened. Tariffs has come into play. Employment might slightly feel a little bit differently. There's a little bit more uncertainty around the economy. Even 1 year on, do you think that could have even happened now?
I think the long-term growth prospects for the industry are as good as ever. I think some of the things like tariffs and the dislocation that's causing in supply chains is going to create short-term challenges, but our industry is really, really scrappy and people are figuring it out. From a long-term, the deal still would have made sense now, even though there's a little short-term uncertainty. The question is, would the financing have been available? And there's windows of 30 days. Even since the news in April, where it probably could have, but it was, it would have been a lot more challenging.
Yeah, understood. And so bring us up to date with where is that integration now? Kind of how far you are through it? Is there anything you kind of want to share with this audience about where S&S is right now?
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures of Barack Obama before he got into office and then when he left. That's kind of how I feel. But it's been a really good year. When we initially, so just to kind of set, we started working on the transaction a few years ago, didn't end up doing it, kind of re-engaged 18 months ago, and then announced it publicly, I think July 1st, and then it closed October 1st. And when you're doing a combination like this, there's only a certain amount of information you can share, before the deal closes. So we had some pretty big questions that we needed to answer before we really developed what the strategy for putting the two businesses together was. So as soon as the deal closed October 1st, we had a work plan around a bunch of things, but there was still a bunch of things that we needed to figure out. And the most important of those was getting out in the market and talking to our customers and understanding what they were looking for, not current state, but like what we could do to enable them to grow in the next phase of the industry. And so the kind of system part of the business, like we had an idea of how to put those together. Distribution centers, like we pretty much knew the plan. We've made some tweaks. We decided to keep the Fresno alphabroder distribution center open to service Southern California, and that was 100% customer feedback driven. But the big thing was changing our sales coverage model, and so we were split, and it's the standard in the industry, in a different way than what we thought our customers, particularly accounts in this room, need and want from us in terms of an engagement plan. So that took some time to kind of evaluate and vet and then roll out. And so we did that, mid-May. I think we converted the system June 1. And then, from a commercial front-end perspective, like the integration's done. We have some redundant distribution centers in some geographies that will sort of wind down over the next year or so. We'll open some additional distribution centers in other markets. But what originally was going to be an 18-month plan, we did in 7 months or something.
Well, that's incredible. There's a lot of. I understand you've got a picture of you there.
Yeah, the young guy.
I think you look good. I think you look the same. And so, just lost my train of thought there. So in terms of now we've got Primeline, we've got S&S. Sort of, how are you positioning those two brands?
Yeah, so we own Primeline. We like the hard goods business. That was a big part of why we did the deal. I think what we kind of figured out. This is one of the big questions, that we didn't really have our arms fully around until we closed. But it really came down to the commercial strategy and how distributors wanted to engage with S&S on hard goods versus apparel, and we decided to split them apart, which there was some cost to synergy there, like it required an investment. We wanted to enhance the operational capability of Primeline, so we've made pretty significant investments there, and pulled the product out of the website. I don't have to explain it to everyone in this room; they probably understand why we did it. But like it's allowed a renewed focus for that segment, and we're really, really excited. I don't know if you saw this week, we announced partnership with Yeti, where we'll be their exclusive drinkware supplier to this channel.
Yeah,
and so we have a lot of momentum in that business, and we really like the long-term growth prospects. I think it's really complementary to what we're doing on the apparel side, but I think the commercial strategy being somewhat separate is important.
Yeah, and so when I think of the two businesses coming together, it makes a huge amount of sense in terms of kind of taking that sort of leap forward in terms of revenues. There will be crossover in distribution centers in some functions and people and everything. So definitely you can see and how great, and there's nothing wrong with this at all, is making that business more profitable. What do you say? You've got a group of customers in front of you. What's the benefit for your customer?
Yeah, so from a product availability, inventory depth, distribution footprint standpoint, there's nothing else like it in the market. So, we built the S&S business on having really, really deep inventory and great brands, and this alpha combination is the multiplier of that. And so we want to provide unique, different things that allow you to have a different conversation with your customer and enable you to grow with them by having brands that are relevant to them and all the price points and different categories you need to make sure you're winning your business with your customer. By getting this incremental scale, we're able to have fewer accounts assigned per rep, and really partner in a more meaningful way with our customers and leverage the tech stack. So I don't know if all of you know, but S&S has its own proprietary ERP and warehouse management system. So we built that starting in 2009, and that's allowed us to have the best fulfillment rates, lowest error rates in the industry. And so being able to continue to invest in the tech as a bigger company and bring tech solutions to our customers is a huge unlock. And we have a ton of really cool things that are more customer facing that we'll be rolling out over the next several months that are are really exciting.
Great. Well, you've kind of got a great group here. I think there's 6% of the volume of the industry is going through this group here. So it's sort of, an amazing audience to sort of have in front of us. And I know sort of my personal experience has been great, being part of Facilisgroup, and our partner group do give us feedback, and that makes us better and pushes us away. So our reputation is really important to me and what people think of us. And so when people are meeting, having drinks in the bar, going around the show, when they talk about S&S, what do you want them to think? What do you want your reputation to be?
I think first and foremost, partnership-oriented, customer-centric, innovative. I mean, we want to be your partner to help you grow. We want to help you figure out ways that you can address parts of the market you're not addressing, and we want to, listen to you and be the solutions you need from a tech standpoint to allow you to be more efficient and grow your business. It's to us, we've built a business on great partnerships. That's the core of what we do. That's why we're passionate about what we do. It's a relentless focus on the customer and executing every day for the customer.
Yeah, that's great. And engagement and speaking to customers is crazy, isn't it? Kind of what an idea that is. And kind of that was one thing that we forgot to do for a while, and worked a lot on over the last 2 years in getting that back. And so part of that's been going out and seeing customers, seeing suppliers as well, and our partner suppliers like yourselves. I had an amazing tour of I think your operation just outside Chicago, and seeing how technology has affected your business. So again, give us a little sense of what technology is doing now, but also how do you see technology affecting what you're doing going forward as well?
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, we just completed, in the middle of this integration, and I think responsible for half of my hair loss in gray, is we rolled out like a $200 million automation project across all the geographies of our network. So nothing has been done like this in the industry, and it allows us to have on-time shipment rates that are basically untouchable, through any sort of human-heavy pick process. And so that was made possible by the tech stack that we built and developed over the years that actually are the ones controlling the robot. And so we have this base of the operational excellence enabled by tech. We have, the first thing I worked on when I joined S&S was our inventory forecasting and demand planning. And, with machine learning and AI now, we're able to take it up, 10 notches. It's crazy. So that's been a really great sort of baseline table stakes thing where we know we have the best in stock and deepest inventory and can do it in an efficient, financially viable way. As we look forward, we're really, really focused on all kind of outward-facing sales enablement tools for our customers. And so, the solutions that we're going to be rolling out over the next several months and into next year will all be focused on marketing solutions for our customers, helping identify product, helping identify opportunities, leveraging this huge data set that we have to help you know when you're walking into a specific end user or a specific event or whatever, what you should be talking about, and allowing your sales reps to be focused on the right things versus just, showing up with 1,300 options that they don't know the difference between the 6 versions of the black t-shirt. So, it's all shifting to be front-end focused.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting how that works out. Because again, thinking technology doing exactly the same, how can we make the proposals quicker to put together, more efficient to put together, and then still the person, the experience then comes in and kind of puts their own stamp on it. So I think that's going to be really interesting how that works, that front end to the end user over time. But then the back office of technology, we had Cromar up here, who's kind of our sort of internal, external leader of tech, and has kind of been speaking about where we're going over time. And so EPOs are a big thing that we're implementing now with our partners. So tell us from your perspective, what difference does EPOs make to the efficiencies in your business?
Yeah, so when you enter an order in our website, it sits on hold for 10 minutes to allow a customer to change their mind or change their order. And then it immediately drops into this automation pick module and routes and prioritizes the picking so that we make sure we hit whatever cutoff time for wherever you're trying to go. And so when you enter an API order or an EPO order, it's following that same workflow. So it's ensuring that your order is literally potentially being picked like 10.5 minutes after you push go. Under the old way, it's generating a PDF, getting sent to a call center environment where it's being manually entered. So you first of all have potential risk of an error from the order being entered incorrectly, but also just a delay. And so that taking that delay out drastically changes, significant percentage points the on-time shipment rate. Because in a manual environment, if you order on a Monday afternoon after Thanksgiving, we could have 60,000 orders sitting there, and they're working through it the best they can. But this ensures that you're at the front of the queue right away. So it's an accuracy thing, it's an on-time thing, and those are huge things for everyone in this industry.
Yeah, so us building the technologies of Facilisgroup, you receiving at your end, the benefit to our distributors, our partners, is that they're front of the queue, on-time accuracy is all helping those guys then kind of make a better service to their customer.
Yeah, and I mean, it not only increases the satisfaction of you guys because you're not having to deal with issues, but it's huge for a customer. I mean, if it gets there a day late, sometimes that's a deal breaker, and you're trusting us with the relationships that you've built with your customers, and we take that very, very seriously, and we want to do everything we possibly can to make sure that exactly what they ordered gets where it needs to be when they need it.
Thank you. And then if we sort of now just look forward lastly to think, what does the industry look like, do you think, in that next 3 to 5, and what does S&S look like in that period as well?
Yeah, so I think we're going to be continuing to evolve our product line to remove duplicity and add incremental categories for people. So I hope we're sitting here and talking about a $50 billion TAM, not a $26 billion TAM next time we do this. And I think that we can't do that unless we engage and enable everyone in this room to be thinking the same way. I think that this year, if you take sort of the base market growth of the industry, depending on who you pay to tell you what they guess at, let's call it 3 to 7% or something. We need to be doing more to be growing outside of that. And so I think the industry landscape will look very different, and we'll be solving different problems for our customers together. But at the end of the day, the core of what we all do is the relationships that we have with our customers. And so that piece of it, I don't think changes. Technology can't displace the connections that people in this room and their salespeople have with the customers, and so we need to just be really focused on strengthening those relationships and allowing this kind of product category funnel to flow.
Yeah, and I think that's to get that 25 to 50, whatever that kind of journey might be, it is getting outside the very kind of strict categories and being a bit more creative around that, and that has to be done together as a group.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're committed to helping educate there as well, and we have open ears to ideas and feedback for other ways we can support you, but we've invested pretty heavily in sales enablement tools, and you'll see more of that coming to market. But that's that is the key to success. You can have the most efficient warehouse and the best product, and it doesn't mean anything if you're not out helping people get comfortable selling it.
Well, I'll just have one last question, and before then we'll open it up to any questions from the audience that are here. But I think, so when we think of S&S, we think of a kind of huge organization that went through this amazing transaction. I think we've got a very visible operational team that we all get to know and see at these events. I think what's been a real pleasure is to kind of then see behind that leadership, because it is about people, it is about an individual who can then drive a team and a strategy. And sort of having you here today has been a real privilege, and so we do thank you very much for giving us insight to have you here and kind of be open to questions for everybody. So that's a real huge thank you from me, and I will kind of open it up to everyone else, but really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So I think there's someone out there with microphones somewhere, and so I cannot see hands going up at all because it's very bright. But if somebody can lead that, who is holding something in the...
Yeah, does anyone have a question? All right, Chase, go ahead.
Hi, Frank. My question is actually coming from my boss, but he wants to know, is there any plans for a back order system?
So, great question. I don't know if the guys at the table next to you planted that or not. So we actually launched a back order system a week or 10 days ago, so that's fully live on the site. So check it out. We can follow up after and get you info if you have questions on it. But yeah, that functionality's out.
That was a setup one, yeah?
I know, great. Keep these coming.
Any other questions? Raise your hand. No questions?
So that's cool. But I think just what are your last words in terms of kind of what do you want to leave this audience with before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, thanks again for having me here. I think let's figure out how we can do more together. We want to partner with you to grow your business, transform your business, achieve your goals. We are open and capable of making any investments and executing on any ideas that people in this room have. So, you know, there's no such thing as a bad idea. We would love your feedback, and you know, we look forward to continuing to partner with all of you in Facilis. So, thank you.
Frank, huge thank you very much. Thank you.